Do you have a Dallas famous moment? Whether you've brushed shoulders with a celebrity in DFW or had your own 15 minutes of fame in the city, we want to hear about it. Send us a DM or email or a voice message to share your story to be featured on an episode of the podcast. We look forward to hearing from you, and thanks for your support. Foundation 45 is a 501c3 nonprofit that funds counseling services for mental health, addiction, and suicide survivors. In addition to providing services, it works to break the stigma surrounding these topics. Foundation 45 recognizes that musicians, artists, and creative types are often at a higher risk for issues with mental health and addiction. The organization's goal is to serve the Dallas-Fort Worth creative community by providing free, top-tier mental health and recovery services. You can learn more about Foundation 45 at foundation45.org. Foundation 45. Live fast, die old. I'm Andrew Sherman. I'm a Texas transplant who has always been in pursuit of art as a career. I've played in bands, pursued an acting career in Hollywood, but I found it behind the lens of a camera here in Dallas, Texas. I was born in New York. I've lived in Chicago, Los Angeles, Austin, but I love Dallas. There's a magical artistic scene in Dallas that mostly goes unnoticed to the outside world. This podcast is focused on what makes it so special and the people who make it thrive artistically. If you don't live here, and even if you do, you might not have heard of them. This is the Dallas Famous Podcast. So who you gonna be? Who you gonna be when you're all grown up? Who you gonna be? Who you gonna be when you're all for us? This week on the Dallas Famous Podcast, we're thrilled to host Amber LeFrance, the trailblazing publicist and founder of CultureHype PR. Known for her fearless, rule-breaking approach, Amber has spent over a decade amplifying the voices of Dallas musicians and creatives, helping them land features in major publications. Beyond her PR prowess, Amber is also the charismatic host of Women Crush Wednesday on Deep Ellum Radio, a show that spotlights women breaking barriers in the music industry. With a career fueled by creativity and an eye for the unconventional, Amber has become a cornerstone of the Dallas art scene, turning local talent into household names. Whether it's launching buzzworthy events or landing viral campaigns or helping artists find their unique voice, Amber's impact on Dallas culture is undeniable. Don't miss this conversation with the PR powerhouse who's redefining the game and inspiring others to dream big. Here's Amber. Yes, hello. We are back at the Deep Ellum Community Center. I've got the lovely Amber LeFrance with me. You're officially the first guest ever interviewed twice. Yeah. Although one of those interviews is in space somewhere.
It's somewhere. But that means this interview will be even better.
I think so. I think when you're done, you're like, oh, this is great practice. And I'm like, I mean, it was a great just podcast. So now I'm going to be fighting my memory to, bring back some of those things. But to start with, for those of you that don't know, you're a publicist mostly, but you have a jewelry business, you're a podcast host. Anything else that you just do, like in general?
I do all kinds of things. People are always like overwhelmed with the amount of things I do, but I like to be busy. So I've been a publicist for 14 years. I've had my business CultureHype for 10 years. Mm-hmm. Well, 11 years now in December.
Nice.
I make jewelry. I have a jewelry shop called Bead Babe.
Is it like a physical store or like an online store?
No, just online store. Mm-hmm. I started doing it during COVID because I grew up working at a jewelry store and I've always had like way too much jewelry. And so I decided to make it also so that I stopped buying them. Yeah. And then I kept posting them, what I was making over COVID, and was just being like really creative. And people ended up buying them, which is nice.
Yeah.
What else do I do? Let's see. I was actually in paused right now, but I was the host of Women Crush Wednesday on Deep Ellum Radio for the last 3 years.
Okay, but that's on pause, you're saying?
Mm-hmm, okay. Yes. So I'm not doing that at the moment because I'm having, this year is my soft girl era is what I'm calling it. So after 10 years of, 14 years of being like totally on call for PR, I've given myself a little bit of a break this year. And so I'm flying solo, taking a management break from like all my team that usually works with me, taking on only my favorite clients. And then I also am helping a French shop in my neighborhood that I've been shopping at for the last 5 years with some marketing and PR stuff.
What's a shop? A
French shop.
Like
The owners are from Paris. They have like accessories, jewelry, perfumes, clothes. But she has been like my neighbor shop for years. And so I just started last month helping her with some like marketing stuff, and it's been nice.
Cool. All right. Well, let's take it all the way back to the beginning.
All the way back.
Yeah. So you were Dallas born?
I was born in California, but I only lived there I lived in Escondido, or I was born in Escondido, like close to San Diego. Only lived there for about a year. I grew up in North Texas, so I went to Plano West, grew up in Plano, Carrollton area. Spent a few random years in Minnesota, which was very cold.
Oh, yeah.
For my dad's job, it was -45 the last winter I was there.
God, that is not
it was
why I live.
Nuts. Also, like, the drastic difference between the two is just ridiculous. Mostly grew up in Texas, and then I started my career in Austin. I went to Texas State University, studied marketing, and then I got all my experience in PR on the job. So I really just got thrown in there. And that's kind of like how my career started. The reason why I got into PR is because I was always like, creative people were my people. I grew up dancing, so I was a ballerina since I was 3 years old.
Like competitive or?
Did ballet, nothing competitive.
But you're just like really into it for...
Yeah, I was mostly ballet and hip hop. So ballet, not a lot of people grow up with like a full orchestra underneath them for performances and like live piano in class and live drums. So I was always surrounded by music, and I think that really like crafted my creative journey. Actually, a lot of former dancers have ended up working for me as well. It's kind of that like type A, type B mix.
Right.
But I grew up dancing, and I always was like, all my friends were creatives and painters. Those were kind of just my people. And in college, I ended up working at Bonnaroo Music Festival for a few years. For 2 years, I talked my way into a program in Tennessee with a bunch of students who were like sculpture students. I talked my way into this program with my friend. It was my friend who I knew in Minnesota from New Hampshire. And so we ended up making these like huge recycled sculptural art at Bonnaroo. And we did recycling promotions. And so that was the start of me. I was always always good at talking my way into things. We'll say that. But at Bonnaroo is when I kind of had my aha moment. Because I had talked my way on stage at the Flaming Lips concert, and I was almost like in the show because the alien hadn't showed up. If any of y'all have seen the alien or like the Flaming Lips show, they have all these characters. Yeah. So I talked my way on stage, like watching basically the concert from backstage, watching the audience at Bonnaroo, and the creative director at Bonnaroo was next to me, and he had like given us a tour before, and he's like, how the fuck did you get back here? And I was like, I made friends. I had made friends basically picking up trash for my recycled art project with all the stage managers. And so they let me backstage at every event.
That's cool.
And when I worked that, when I was looking out at like my favorite show, which I was obsessed with the Flaming Lips, still am. I realized I was like, I don't know what this is, but I'm really good at this, which I think ended up being just like the power of negotiation and like talking my way into situations. Right. Which is a very good PR skill for sure.
Yeah. Well, let's dig a little like more specific. So you went to school in Austin, right?
I actually went to school in San Marcos. I went to Texas State.
Okay. And then, but you were there you said journalism?
I actually studied marketing and business.
Okay. I wish I had the old interview to refer to.
Well, honestly, most people think I studied journalism or communications because I got into PR, but I studied marketing and business, and like did a lot of entrepreneurship classes. My dad was always an entrepreneur. I never thought I was going to own my own business at all or get into PR. Although I do know I was really bad at math. So marketing should have been not recommended to me.
Like all this, yeah. So, did you, like you're in school, like you're just a big music fan, I'm guessing. And so you're going to shows and you're just kind of like, that's part of your, so tell us about your first like job as a PR agent.
So it kind of started, I guess my history in the music industry started before I did PR. I kept doing things that kind of felt good to me. I was a retail girl growing up. So like I always worked like clothing retail, accessories retail, which my sales experience did end up being a very good tool for me.
Yeah, I could see that.
And working with clients. So my music career started, my aha moment was at Bonnaroo. And then I would go to all kinds of shows in Austin. Really, the only reason I went to San Marcos is because I didn't get into UT and I wanted to be in Austin.
Sure.
So it was like Austin adjacent.
It's cool there. It's like a little bit, I mean, back then it was like, because now it's like probably a lot different, more people.
Oh, yeah. But back then I feel like everyone like, it's definitely a party school, but it also is like full of people like the alternative people who aren't in the frats are all like music lovers. Like they want to live near Austin. We'd go like every weekend. And so when I was going to school, I went to tons of concerts, ACL. I spent all my money on concert tickets and I actually joined the Grammy University, which is like the Grammy Recording Academy for college students.
Okay.
And so there was a chapter in Austin that I joined and they had like this whole all day conference. You could learn about music. You could go see like intimate concerts. And I went to the job fair during that conference. Like you can sign up for like, hey, I want to learn more about like music booking or like planning music festivals or PR. And so I went to this job fair at that event and I met my first, who would be like my first PR job and internship. At the time I was like riding the fine line of like not getting fired from my retail job because I was like so interested in music that I had started going to the Grammy University. I started an internship at the Texas Music Office.
Oh, okay.
So I was doing that, like managing their music database. And then there was the job I've ever gotten fired from is the only job I've ever gotten fired from was my retail job because I was late opening the store because I was at Grammy U music event.
Okay.
And it was my last straw. And I remember my boss being like, this is not what you want to do. I know you're super interested in music. Like, call me when you're like famous is literally what she said. And I was like, bye guys. Bye retail life.
Yeah. Well, it's cool. I mean, it was a good experience to have.
Yeah, it was a good experience. I put myself through college, like selling clothes. So definitely learned a lot, how to be independent, how to work with clients, how to be really good at sales. Yeah. But so I met this agency, Juice Consulting, which still is in Austin. It's owned by Heather Wagner. It's owned by Heather Wagner. She doesn't go by Heather Reed anymore. Okay. And at the time I was interning for the Texas Music Office, like, which is part of the governor's office. And, I wanted an internship with this woman, but she was like the most impressive woman I have ever met in my life. Like, this woman, Heather, had launched Beyonce's solo career from Destiny's Child when she was working for Music World in Houston. Okay. So she literally she had been working in Amsterdam and in the entertainment industry. She was in her 30s. And then she launched Beyonce's solo career. She was her brand manager. Then she quit Music World, moved to Austin and started her own agency. And I was like, this woman is like my dream woman. Like, I didn't even understand PR. And I applied for an internship and she was literally like, why should I hire you? You don't even know what PR is.
That is great. That's fantastic.
I remember the interview like it was yesterday. I was so nervous. And then I was like, I will do anything to figure it out. Like, just take a chance on me.
Right.
At the time, my boss from the Texas Music Office, his name was Casey. He worked there for like 30 years. He's like a legend. He called her when I was at my internship the next day for like a reference. And he goes, if you don't hire Amber, you're crazy, and hangs up the phone. And that's the only thing he said to her. And I was like, what? That was the weirdest recommendation ever. I was like, that's totally not going to work. And she hired me.
That's great.
The next day.
That's fantastic. Wait for a second before we go on. Like, what does the Texas Music Office exactly do?
Yeah.
I'm gonna have someone on from there, but
so the Texas Music Office, now they work really hard to create music-friendly cities to make sure that musicians can thrive in cities. So they make sure that the ecosystem of the music scene can actually support the musicians in it. Mm-hmm. They also have like grant programs now. But back in the day when I was working for them, I was in charge of managing this huge database. So a big part of like what they do is they offer like information to anyone and everyone that's free on any aspect of the music industry. So if you're like, I want contact information for this festival, or I need a publicist, there's a whole list of publicists. Or I want to find out who works this venue. They're basically just like a wealth of knowledge.
Interesting. Okay, anybody could just go access that.
Yeah, anyone.
Okay.
It's free.
Okay. All right, cool. And so now she hires you on that strange recommendation.
A strange recommendation, yeah. It was very like, it was a perfect Casey recommendation because he was a very interesting dude.
Yeah, I mean, that's, yeah, okay,
I
cool.
literally like watched him do that and I was like, oh my God, what the fuck?
I mean, either it worked or she just saw in you like the dedication, I guess, right?
I think she was like, this man who's worked here for 30 years just told me I was crazy and hung up on me if I didn't hire you. So maybe I should.
That's really funny. All right. So then what did that, like, how did that look for you when you started working there?
So at the time I think I had just moved to Austin because I was still in school. And I took this, I was done with the music office. I took this internship with Heather and I worked remotely. So we didn't like, it was kind of interesting because at the time people didn't really work remotely. So it was like, I worked remotely before COVID for years and years. But part of what I did, one of my first campaigns ever was for Erykah Badu. And so I was in charge of like helping her start a jewelry collection, which actually never ended up happening. But this story is like how I proved myself, I think, because at the time I was an unpaid intern. And I was like literally like delivering food at night before Uber Eats was a thing. I was delivering food for like this like version of Uber Eats that like never became successful.
Right.
But I'd work PR all day and then I'd deliver food at night till like 11. And so the first project I did, I remember I was like sitting in my house in college with all my roommates and she was like, hey, we need help. Erykah Badu's manager and her are going on tour. Here are her tour dates. She's going to be in Asia. This is all the information she gave me. She's going to be in Asia. She wants to start a jewelry line with brass. And she cares about, she'll be in Asia. That's a really specific location, obviously.
Yes.
You can't use the name Erykah Badu when you talk to people. She works with brass and she cares about fair trade. And I was like, how am I supposed to help arrange this trip? And she goes, Google it, and hung up on me.
Wow.
And I remember being like,
Jeez, that's crazy. That's crazy.
She's amazing, but she knows, we've talked about how hard of a boss she is, and I'm really glad she threw me into stuff like that because I did figure it out. But by the end of it, I bought my own Skype headset in minutes. I'd be Skyping in the middle of the night when my roommates were having parties. And I'd be like talking to makers in Thailand. But by the end of this entire process, I had arranged an entire jewelry buying trip for her in Bangkok, Thailand. And she was escorted by the Thai Gem and Jewelry Association to 5 different women's groups that made jewelry in brass.
Oh, wow. Jeez.
And my boss was like, I still, to this day, like, I feel like, I don't know if I could pull that out of my ass again.
That's pretty amazing. Especially when you were doing it, it probably was a lot harder to find stuff online.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It was wild. I just asked questions and like would ask for English representatives on the phone. Like I was winging it. Somehow it worked out. And I did a lot of like celebrity endorsement campaigns for her, and I was doing PR. We did like Gloria Gaynor's spoken word album that won a Grammy. But 6 months into my internship, she was like, do you like what you're doing? Because you're being a publicist. Like, are you enjoying it? I was like, this is amazing. This is like all I want to do. And then I became her employee her formally employee after interning. I worked for her for 7 years.
Oh, wow.
And 5 of those, it was just her and I running the entire agency.
Wow. Okay. That sounds, okay. So you really got you learned on the job big time.
Oh, learned on the job. There was a moment, my first actual job, my boss wasn't in town and we had hired someone to help. And I had to drive to San Antonio. And I was supposed to be doing this campaign with Julian Castro when he was the mayor. And all she told me was that I had to check in VIPs, which never meant, I soon realized that never meant that's what I was doing. I would not be sitting there checking in VIPs.
Right.
And so like by the end of it, I'm like running up and down these like bleachers with Julian, like arranging interviews. Got yelled at by my coworker. Got no idea what I was supposed to be doing. Cried in the bathroom a little bit, came back and figured it out.
Oh, yeah, behind the scenes part.
There are a lot of those moments. So it was an amazing learning experience. Like she taught me everything, and she taught me how to really like work hard and also just hustle, but also like not be like, as a publicist, it's very cutthroat, especially as a female publicist. And she taught me to be not so cutthroat and just like a kinder person in that career.
Huh. Yeah. I dated a publicist in LA, and she was like a celebrity publicist. So she had like, and so like my first impression of what a publicist did was like, you just have to lie very well. Yeah. Because some of our clients, one of them got arrested in Canada, one of them got arrested in America.
Diversion.
Yeah. And so and then I was like, wow, I can't even trust a publicist because she's so good at this. Like she's lying for me in real life. But then I realized that that's like a very dialed in specific type
I don't have to do a ton of damage control. That's not my favorite part of PR.
I don't know that anybody likes it. She hated it, but I mean, it's part
pays
of that.
The most money.
Yeah, it's true.
But you do have to really learn how to think quickly on your toes. You have to be really good at schmoozing people. Like you have to convince people to like you, so they will do favors for you. Yeah. And your clients will like get things by association because they're like, oh, I like her. Maybe I won't print that awful thing
right
about what her client did.
I mean, like what, like if someone like my, second grade daughter is like gonna have career day, like what would you tell a class the job of a publicist is? Like, what do you do? I
would say, one, it's like crafting the message of like the thing, person, company, store that you're promoting. So the beginning part of it is like making sure that you and your client are coming up with how they want to be perceived in the public. So that's like, okay, like for bands, for example, like I get hired a lot by bands that have been put in the wrong category because they didn't have a publicist or like a good bio. So they'd be like in this random category, and I'd be like, pick two. Like, are you neo soul? Are you pop rock? Are you like, what do you want to be known as? Because whatever someone writes about you or I write about you in a press release, it's just going to get regurgitated forever.
Yeah, exactly.
So like be really happy with like how I'm describing like, hey, this is like your musician's story. This is like what genre you want to be put in. These are your inspirations. Because I'm crafting that narrative that will just be like reused and rejigged as people write about you over and over. And then the other part is the relationships. Like you have to have relationships. If you don't have a relationship, you got to be able to make a relationship really quickly with the media. Yeah. And then it's garnering attention for your client. So like this album's coming out. How can I get someone to care about it as much as I do? Yeah. And then it's a lot of like organizing the interviews, arranging them, making sure that they're not asking about things the client doesn't want to talk about, that they're staying on message, that you can't control everything that a reporter's gonna say, but you can. My job is kind of trying to control it as much as I can to make my client happy. Sure. And then if something does come out that's like factually incorrect, because that's the only thing you can really change, is something factually incorrect, then I'm making sure, hey, like that's not correct. We need to update that story. Got it. Okay. So I'm kind of like walking along the way, like the whole promotions process. Right. With the client. Yeah.
And you got thrown into a situation where you had really kind of upper end clients to begin with. So you kind of you just kept that going, it seems like.
Yeah. High pressure.
High pressure. Yeah.
High pressure clients. Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because when you look at like which jobs are the most stressful, like statistically, it's like entrepreneur, which I ended up doing, marketing, public relations, and then entertainment. And I chose like 4 of the well, because the most stressful combined.
I feel this so strongly that like the person that gets people into the show, into the theater, that person should get paid a lot of money because that is the hardest thing to do. Like you can be talented to the end of you can be the best sounding band ever, but like it doesn't matter if you don't have anyone that knows about it, you know?
Well, yeah, you have to, like, you can't Beyonce your album, even though, like, you can just, like, I say Beyonce your album as in, like, just, like, drop it tomorrow and expect people to
Right.
care. Like, there's a whole strategy behind that makes it look like it's just dropping.
Yeah.
But you definitely have to have someone who cares, like, find the right publicist that actually cares about your music and your vision for your music, so that they can convince people that to care about you as well and become fans of yours in the media.
Right.
But also you need someone who's realistic. Like, don't ever hire a publicist who's, like, guaranteeing you anything, because nothing is guaranteed in press.
Right.
And you need someone who's going to be like, look, like, I always tell people, like, people think their baby is, like, the cutest baby, and, like, artists think their project is, like, the best project of all time.
Sure.
And I love your project, but I need to make sure we make people care about it enough and pay attention to it enough, and that you put as much care into, like, the releasing of the project and promotions that you did in the studio.
Right. Okay, so let's get back to you. You are at 7 years at this agency. So how do you end up in Dallas?
Yeah, so that's a funny story. All my stories are, I feel like, just, like, chaotic. So I had no intentions of returning. I grew up in West Plano, and to be honest, I fully hated growing up in West Plano. I was never rich enough. Like, I was never cool enough. I was always kind of just like, I don't fit in. Like, I was on dance team because my mom wanted me to, but then I would hang out with all the, like, nerdy, like, cinephiles and, like, musicians. But yeah, I ended up, like, I planned on never returning. I was like, bye, I'm living in Austin forever. And at the time, I was delivering food at night, working for free at the PR agency. That was 6 months of my life. And even though my rent at my extremely ghetto East Austin apartment was only $450 at the time, which tells you how long ago and how old, or not how old, how ghetto it was. Like, the floor was slanted. I realized when I moved in. I just couldn't keep up with it, and so my plan was to, like, move in with my dad temporarily, and my stuff was in Austin for 2 years. Like, I would not give up on the dream, like, in storage. But the main reason why I moved is because I got bed bugs in my apartment. And so they were in there when I moved in, and I had no idea that the whole building was infested. And, God, like, they would do nothing about it. I spent 6 weeks, like, not sleeping, like, eaten alive. Like, I literally thought I was going to go insane. And they wouldn't let me out of my lease, and they, like, wouldn't do anything about the bed bugs. They claimed, like, oh, like, you must have brought them in. They were just a shitty apartment complex. So we got so fed up that my dad helped me move out in the middle of the night, and we left a note for them with his attorney's phone number if they ever wanted to come after me about the rent and the lease, and they never did.
That's a good way to do it. But oh my God, I'm still traumatized by the one time I had bed bugs.
Oh my God, I would literally cut off, like, my left arm to not ever do that again.
I am anally checking every hotel bed I see. It's a lot. It was, my stuff was in storage forever, actually. And then even when I moved into Dallas storage, I did not touch it for years. Like, I was, like, traumatized. Right.
But I moved in with my dad for a while. And I ended up starting my company, which is also kind of a funny story. It's always, like, these by chance things. Like, my dad likes to say, like, what is it? Luck is preparedness meets opportunity. And my career's always been like that, where I, like, see an opening and I'm like, maybe I should take that leap. And then I just do it anyway, even though it's, like, kind of insane. But I came back here and I was interning for an agency. I was on the job hunt. I was still working, like, freelance PR for years for that woman in Austin. My dad was getting very frustrated because I hadn't found a job yet. I was looking on, like, Craigslist and all this stuff. Literally, it was the week before. It was, like, the week that my dad was like, maybe you should just take, like, a job at a restaurant or bartender, like, as you look. It was, like, the last straw. And I actually was dating a guy who thought that I was going nowhere. We laughed about this later, and he broke up with me because he's like, oh, he didn't see me do my PR work. He would just see me like fun time and thought I was just applying for jobs and like freeloading off my dad.
Yeah. That's funny.
Years later, he's like, yeah, remember that when I did that? That's really dumb.
Yeah, maybe.
So everyone had given up on me basically. And then I found this unpaid internship here for an entertainment-based PR agency. It doesn't exist anymore, but at the time it was called Plan B PR. And my dad was like, why don't you just take it? I know it's unpaid, but like, you don't know anyone here. And I took it, and my supervisor, Jared, and I bonded on music, and I basically was like, I'll take this unpaid internship because I'm already a publicist, by the way. I have been for years.
Right.
If one, I can work with you, because him and I got along. Two, I don't have to do stupid intern shit like stuff bags for events. And he was like, okay, cool. And we ran, for 3 months, we ran their biggest account, which was the Hilton Anatole. Oh, okay. And he would plan events and I would spin the PR side of it. And I wrote all the press releases, like literally was like a publicist as an intern. Right. And he decided he would leave the agency and was like, hey, crazy idea. Like, I know a lot of people. You're clearly very good at what you're doing. Do you want to start a company together? And I was like, well, I don't really have any other like prospects. And I really like loved what I was doing with Heather and Austin still. So I like didn't want to leave. And I was like, I want more of that. And so the agency was born.
Wow. That's great. Yeah. Now, so the one thing I remember from our last interview that I want to try to conjure up is you, like how you kind of got in with musicians in Dallas.
Yeah. For
like,
sure.
Well, go ahead. If you don't say the part I want you to, I'll bring it up after.
Okay. Yeah. So, well, real quickly, I ended up running the agency with Jared, my business partner, for a year. He went back into finance.
Oh, this isn't your current agency?
No, same agency, but I rebranded it.
Okay, got it.
So he went back into finance, and after a year, he was like, hey, I'm going back into finance. Do you want the agency, like, to run with it? And I was like, what the fuck? I'm not. I was not naturally like extroverted. He used to make me get business cards at events because I was like shy. Because I was also like 23.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say, I can't imagine that, but okay, yeah, 23, sure.
And so I was like, I guess I'll take this leap off into entrepreneurship. And so I renamed it CultureHype. Been 10 years since that. But I did always want to work like in the types of industries that I worked in Austin. And I noticed there wasn't really anyone satisfying the music market here. Honestly, the musicians like didn't seem to like know that they needed to pay for PR and like what PR costs.
Right.
And so my first project here was Goodnight Ned. And that kind of like, we killed this like crazy ass, like circus themed album release party where we mixed the lineup, put like Sam Lau on it and the Rich Girls, packed trees. Me and my interns made like carnival games in our backyard. And that was kind of my PR stunt to get more music clients in Dallas. But one of my biggest projects was I had met an artist, Larry G, and he had got introduced to me by one of my friends, and he needed someone to talk about him going on Jimmy Kimmel Live. And it was kind of funny because it was like he had won an R Stage contest. And it was funny because it was a huge deal that Sarah Jaffe got announced the same week on Jimmy Kimmel.
Oh, wow.
And then we were like also announced that Larry was going to be on. But that's why I got hired by him. And that was a crazy wild ride, like going to Jimmy Kimmel, like it was wild. Wow. I was like in the studio audience somewhere. There's a really awkward video of me clapping in the middle of the studio audience because they made me stand in it. And I was so nervous. I was like, my clients are on. No, that was really exciting. That was one of my first big projects. We ended up working together and dating for 6.5 years.
Right.
And that's really how I was working within the music community, but that got me even deeper into the music community. And I met everyone like, you know, Bo, I got him his first, Bo Bedford from the Texas Gentleman, got him his first article on being a producer, ended up doing Modern Electric's PR. So that was really fun. And really, I got to be a part of that start. Even like Taylor Nick's super talented singer, I'm sure you know her, and everyone listening does, but like we were choosing Larry's backup band because we were building him a big band, and I was like helping him choose singer audition tapes, and like Taylor Nick's was one of the singer audition tapes, so like I go way back with like Bo and everyone and Taylor. And honestly, the first Texas Gentleman was like Larry's backing band that went off and like did amazing things, and now has like turned into many renditions of the Texas Gentleman.
And their own thing for sure. Yeah. That's wild. And then, how have you said it was Paul Slavin? Somebody.
Oh my gosh, yes. There's a story. Let's see. I'm trying to think about who. Oh, so I started doing like basically like I was like the go-to publicist. One, because I had like done some PR stunts. So like Goodnight Ned, Larry's career helped a lot. I worked with Kirk Thurmond early on. And people kind of knew like, hey, if you're going to invest in like recording and all of this, like you need to invest in PR. Also, there were no agencies focusing on emerging artists because it's not the easiest thing to work with emerging musicians.
Sure. No, I can imagine not.
But those are like my people, and that's the language I speak. And also no one could afford a publicist that was like older than me or like in New York or whatever. So I had these like special music campaigns at special prices, like $250 plus or whatever.
Right.
But I was working with like everyone at the time. I was working with Desi, I was working with Charlie Crockett, Frankie Leone, Remy Riley, all these like amazing artists.
Yeah, me too.
And I kept sending music to KXT, and I would like, Paul Slavin does not use his email, so you have to Facebook him separately. So I would Facebook message Paul, and I ended up, I forget which artist we were. It may have been Charlie, actually. I think it was Charlie Crockett. We were doing it in studio at KXT. And Paul Slavin was like, we had never met in person. He was like, so Amber, like, what do you do? And I was like telling him like my clients, and he's like, wait, I just realized that you're the reason that everyone all of a sudden has their shit together. I'm like, yes, I wrote the press releases. I made them do drop boxes. I made them send me the radio friendly mix. I was like, yes, I'm the person behind the screen.
Yeah, that is, I love that. And that is the one thing that I remember clearly that I wanted to get.
Oh my gosh, yes. I loved it so much because it was like, you know, PR is a very like behind the scenes job. And so like you're like getting other people attention and recognition, and you don't always get a lot of it.
Sure.
And so it's nice to have someone be like, oh shit, you're the one that's like, you know, like moving things, like moving and shaking things behind the scene, organizing them. Like,
yeah, no, really. I mean, it's cool. It's like there's like a ripple in the scene before and after your influence in a way, you know, because all the people you talk about, like, and now it's commonplace. I mean, some bands do it themselves and are better at it, but a lot of people know.
But when I moved here, it was so like people were not investing in PR. Also, like, I think the bands were doing a really good job of like playing on each other's shows, like band networking, but there were not a lot of women. So I remember like hiring Somebody's Darling to play like all the time because they had a female like co-lead singer.
Yeah.
And then, which is the reason why I ended up with the radio show that I was doing for the last 3 years, is because I worked with so many up and coming female artists, like Remy Riley, Maya Piata, Frankie Leone, Sarah Johnson, all kinds of amazing artists. And so all of a sudden I got to like help the women musicians and like have like really create a scene that was a little bit more, I would say, supportive and constructive, because I was introducing them all to each other, and then they all started like playing with each other. And then they would do like girls shows at the Granada, and it's turned into some really like valuable, I feel like, female relationships and a lot more women in the boys club that used to be the Dallas music scene.
Yeah, no, it's true. There's like, I mean, there's more and more I'll go to shows that it's like the opening band has one dude and the headliners have no guys or whatever. It happens a lot.
It makes me very happy because I'm very girl power. In fact, I've been told, my dad is always like, maybe you should turn down the girl power a little bit. But that's always been like my secret sauce.
Yeah, I mean, who else is doing it? Like, why turn it down?
I mean, I grew up loving the Spice Girls, so it's no surprise to anyone.
Is there any other like clients or moments that really kind of shape what you're doing now?
I think the reason why I got into PR is because I love music. And at the time that was like a crazy notion that I could do music PR. In fact, that was one of the reasons I was so excited to like go off on my own when I rebranded the agency, because I was like, ooh, I can do the stuff I've been doing, like skincare, like charity events, fashion, but I can also do this thing over here. I think what I love doing is kind of taking the mentorship role and mentoring people at the beginning of their career. Like Sarah Johnson, for example, when she came to me, she was like, hey, I'm in my 30s. I want to start my music career. Can you help me release my first album? And I was like, yes. Also, like, I love this story. I love the storytelling of people. I don't think it's about just the music anymore.
Right.
Or how popular it is or you are. I think it's all about like who's the human behind the music. And so I've loved like doing things like helping Sarah launch her career, or like Frankie Leone. Like there was a moment where like Eva from The Observer called me and she's like, Amber, the Frankie Leone story we worked on for literally her first single when she was 16 made the cover of The Observer.
Right.
And so like I got in the car with her and her mom and we surprised her at The Observer like newsstand. Or like Remy Riley, like watching her and like helping mentor her along the way has been really valuable to me. Yeah. Like I used to dress her from my closet. She would come over with her dad John and I'd like put them like outfits together for their photo shoot.
Nice. Yeah.
So I love that like mentorship and like helping them do more than just PR, like think about their brand image and how it all comes together and long-term planning of it. But another thing I really love is creating more women in the music scene that aren't just musicians. Like Sarah Bodron used to work for me. We planned that crazy circus with Goodnight Ned together. Now she's like epic publicist, works for Def Jam, splits time between here and LA. Like Jane Kim used to work for me. She's also in LA, amazing booking agent. And so I've loved to help kind of like foster these new relationships where it's just a more like supportive, you know, ecosystem.
Yeah, like giving these ladies a launch in the in this industry. That's really cool.
And I do love working with men, obviously, but I have a special part in my heart for the ladies and for the young artists like Parker Toomey.
Yeah. God, he is a good-looking kid. He's a good musician.
He's got the whole gorgeous.
He's got the whole package. That kid.
When he was like, I think he was 16 when I did his campaign too, because for some reason I had like a whole group of kids, and I was like, yay, working with all their parents, and they were all collabing. I got him this full page like spread in Modern Luxury, and they were like, he is the most adorable kid ever.
Yeah. I remember I walked up to him and I got him confused with someone else, and I was making a joke, and he was just like, well, who are you? I was like, oh yeah, you don't really know. I know who you are. You don't know. It's all good. Is there any other clients that you're currently working with that you want to talk about, or actually, it sounds like you're going into a little bit of a downtime for the career. So like you're gonna concentrate more on the jewelry, and what are you gonna do?
Honestly, a downtime for me is probably still like really busy for other people.
I get it.
Because that's just how I am. So instead of having like an office and a team of 6 all the time and like 8 to 10 clients, I have like 2 or 3 main clients at any given time. I'm learning how to say no more, really just working with things that like feel right to me and feel fun, which has naturally like turned into me working with all my favorite like OG clients. So like I'm about to be working with like Damani Daniel again, like amazing event planner. He's known me since I was an intern. Working with Preston Panic again on his new salon, and him and I, he's best friends with my former business partner Jared. So I've known him since I was like a baby in the industry.
Okay.
Working, I'm about to start working on the Dallas Art Fair. The director at FIG is one of my long-term clients. Like we like grew up together in our 20s, like in the scene. And so I'm loving things like that and doing things like that and working with like my favorite people. A musician that I'll be working with is 88 Killa. And I did his first release, and that was so much fun. So I'm excited to work with him again too.
Cool. Yeah, no, it's you've got quite the list, and almost everyone you named has been on this show too, which is funny.
Yeah.
But just worked out that way. Normally this is where I'd say, hey, if you need any PR help, reach out, but I guess you better have a really good gig.
Yeah, it just depends. Like, I would say definitely reach out to me if you need PR help. Reach out to me with enough advance notice, because sometimes bands will be like, hey, I have an album coming out. Can you help me? And it's like next weekend. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
So I definitely plan ahead. I am taking on new clients.
Okay.
I'm just being like more choosy than usual.
Okay.
So like, I think if your story is right, the music is good. If you worked with me before and you know we love each other, for sure.
Right. So if you get represented by you, it's like you kind of pass the test or something, right?
Yeah, it's like you also get, I think, adopted into a community of creatives that like will always be a part of my community, including like all my former staff and interns. They're all like moving and shaking in the scene, all doing very creative things, and it's kind of like the CultureHype fam. Has like grown up and gone on to do amazing things.
Yeah, no, it's cool. It's like, and the mentorship part of it is really, really excellent. I didn't think about how, every time I've worked with you in the past, there's another, younger woman that's like just going into the industry.
Yeah, as it were, I've had literally this year is my break from the mentorship, but it's one of my favorite things. So I know I'll go back to it soon. I've had over 120 interns.
Wow, I can't get one.
And the reason why I've done that is because, my boss in Austin took a chance on me when I didn't even know what PR was. And I find that very valuable. And I like to think I got lucky with like that chance. And then I use like my grit and my stubbornness to prove myself. But I like to give people the chance to like show me like, hey, what else can you do?
Yeah.
Like, are you interested in this thing? And kind of like help push them in the direction of what they want to do.
Cool. Yeah. Well, using your power for good. I like it. Hey, Amber, thanks for coming back and re-recording this.
Hopefully this one will not get lost in ether.
Oh no, I can see that we are definitely...
There's proof that it's being recorded.
Yeah. Actually, there was one very recently that I was like 2 minutes in and didn't record, but I caught it in 2 minutes.
See, now that'll be your lesson. You'll be like, I need to make sure this is recording.
I don't sleep at night. When on the way home, I'm like, okay, I just want to see that file. When I put it in the computer, I want to be there. So anyway, so thanks again. And we'll keep an eye out for, I think we'll see what you're doing, whether we know it or not sometimes.
Yes. I'm always out there doing something, even when I say I'm in my soft air.
Right. I like it. Okay. Hey, thanks again, Amber.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank Amber LeFrance for joining us today. You can find her links in the show notes. Get your own Dallas Famous Podcast t-shirt. The link is now available in the show notes. Thank you again to the Deep Ellum Community Center for letting us record there. Theme song, Unstoppable by Salim Nuralla. Thank you for listening. Please like, subscribe, follow, all the good stuff, and share it with your friends. We'll see you next time.